Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And before we get into it today, I'd just like to say that only about 20% of my viewers are actually subscribed. So if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. It helps the channel grow, it gets the message across, and it makes the voices a little bit louder. Thanks. Now, the story today is about a woman who was breastfeeding her baby in a museum. And it is utter petty-mindedness that one of the docents comes over and asks her to stop. The person asking her was another woman, which makes it really weird. But when asked why, it's because of the museum's food and drink policy. Honestly, you couldn't make this up. Some sort of joyless Jobsworth is forcing a baby to go hungry because of some petty rule. I mean, it is ridiculous. Anyway, let's look at this article and get into it. It just makes you wonder the way the world's going these days, doesn't it? So here we are. Mother is stunned to be told off for breastfeeding her 3-month-old son in a museum because no food and drink are allowed. This is ridiculous, isn't it? It's not as though he's running around with a bottle of pop and a Mars bar or something. Faye Church said she wanted to find a quiet area to breastfeed her son. The 35-year-old said she was utterly humiliated by the female member of staff. A spokesman from the museum apologised wholeheartedly for the incident. Now, I'm pretty sure that when the food... Now, I understand the policy of no food and drink. Some of these things in the museums are particularly rare, particularly valuable, or particularly, susceptible to damage. You don't want any risk. You don't want risk to them. You don't want them... you get it. I completely understand that. You don't want people with grubby fingers, oily fingers, chocolatey fingers, touching things, moving things. It's not an issue. Not an issue with a food and drink policy that says, look, these are very valuable specimens or whatever. No food and drink. That's the rule. Not an issue. But the petty-mindedness that you think that a baby is going to be on the teat, supping away, and then going to run around going blah, 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 and spreading milk everywhere. Sheer bloody stupidity, isn't it? And I hope this female that did this to the mother has had a stern talking to. You're not calling for her job, but she does need to be told to use her bloody sense. Anyway, a mother was left stunned after being told off for breastfeeding her 3-month-old son in a museum because no food and drink are allowed. Now, he's 3 months old. What damage can he possibly do? Faye Church for Haverhill in Suffolk said one of the members of the staff told her it's not okay because no food and drink are allowed in the museum. The 35-year-old visited the Museum of Zoology in Cambridge on Saturday with her husband and 2 children. Miss Church said she wanted to find a quiet... If it's her husband, it would be Mrs. Church, surely. This paper just gets worse. Anyway, Mrs. Church said she wanted to find a quiet area to breastfeed her son before she fed him. Oh, I see, yes, give him a top up before the main feed. The mother of 2 said she sat there quite happily breastfeeding Reuben to give him a little feed for 5 minutes. She said a few people walked past her without paying much attention, but a staff member said her actions were not okay because no food and drink are allowed to be consumed in the museum. Now, the people who walked past and didn't sort of bat an eyelid, they're normal people. They're normal people who go, oh, look, there's a mother breastfeeding. That's fine. That's perfectly normal, perfectly natural. We'll just move on over here. We won't even draw attention to it because it is the single most natural thing in the world. There is nothing more natural or wholesome than a baby being fed. And if you have a problem with a baby being fed, you have really got a problem with humanity. Anyway, Mrs. Church added that I felt utterly humiliated, like a little girl at school, just getting told off. I didn't know what to say. I was absolutely shaken by it. I just couldn't believe it. She was making me feel humiliated. I did just feel about 3 inches high at that moment, and it wasn't nice. It was the way she said it. It wasn't any kindness from her comments. Most people have helped me because I had a big buggy with me, and you have your baby in your arms. It's difficult finding places to breastfeed. Yeah, so you just find a quiet place, sit down, pop the baby on, take 5 minutes, however long it takes. Baby's done, and you very discreetly pop yourself back in and go about your day. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Except this one joyless, probably childless single woman who took considerable exception and then imposed with such forthrightness such a petty rule. People like that don't really belong in humanity, do they? They have got zero humanity in them. Anyway, she said, I've never been to the cafe upstairs. I didn't know if it was open or how to get to it. With a baby crying, you just go and find an area as quick as you possibly can to settle them. She said, if she had come over and said, there's a nice area here, or I can help you go there, then that would have been perfectly normal and a kind thing to do. She seemed disgruntled with me, and it was just bizarre, and it left me really shaking up. I think she was probably jealous, and that jealousy came out in a form of hatred, really. Mrs. Church said she had breastfed both her children. This was the first time she had ever received anything negative towards her in public, because 99.9% of people understand what the mechanism is. It's you have a baby, and the best thing you can do for a baby is latch it on. That's it. And we all know, all the studies show, and I don't know, 4.5 billion years of evolution has led us to the point where latching a baby on is the best thing for mother, for baby, for society. And all the people who pass by going, oh, nothing, are normal people. But this woman, this docent, she wasn't normal, was she? She's up in the head somewhere. Anyway, she said her and her husband Aaron wanted to confront the staff member but could not find her in the museum. The University Museum of Zoology states on its website under Visiting with Family section, breastfeeding and bottle feeding is welcomed in all museum spaces. So the actual rules are latch on, girls. But this one viciously officious attendant took a considerable exception at it and tried to enforce this petty rule. Well, how small-minded and empty are you? You must be soulless. And I think that this person should be named. I don't think she should lose a job. I think she should be educated. But she should be shamed out of it because she shamed someone else. Anyway, the museum continued, we absolutely allow and welcome breastfeeding and bottle feeding in all our public spaces. We pride ourselves on being a family-friendly museum, and it's terrible that a visitor was treated in this manner. The volunteers she spoke to made an unfortunate mistake, one which is not reflective of our culture or our policy. So at least to give the museum their fair due, they have apologised profusely. They have explained their whole policy, and they're saying that it was nothing and was intended, and it was a rogue staff member being overly officious. And they said here, as soon as we made aware of what happened, we shared it with the whole volunteer and staff team. That is to make sure that vicious, officious, childless, weaselly woman who did this won't do it again. And it is awful. But now, the main point of what I'm going with this is, there is this backlash that seems to happen from time to time, and it's a regular occurrence where some people, and to be fair, it's usually men, so the fact that it was a woman this time really surprised me, take great umbrage and exception to a woman breastfeeding her child. I cannot, in my mind, I cannot work out why. But it just seems to go on. And every few months there'll be I was sitting at a cafe and asked to cover up. And I was sitting there and it's just wrong. People who do this are idiots. Because we all know, and I'm sure all my viewers, I'm going to say, I can't say all, 99.99% of you probably feel the same way as I do. And that is that it's a perfectly normal thing. And if someone's doing, that's fine. You notice it and you draw your attention elsewhere to let them have that moment of privacy. You don't stand there gawking at them, you go, oh, it's baby breastfeeding, and you move on. That's it. But it doesn't even enter your consciousness. It's just so natural. Anyway, I'm going to round off, come up, and get out this video. So, I hope the family have got over it. Hope young Reuben is doing well. Stay on it, son. It'll do you good. And that next time the family go to the museum, she feels completely free to feed him if he's still feeding at that point. It's very wrong to shame people for this. And I find it weird. I think the woman concerned who'd done this to her, I just think she's got an empty, soulless life. She must obviously hate humanity, which is odd job to have if you hate humanity. But to be a sort of a stickler for these tiny little rule infringements. And you're casting around looking for guilt everywhere. what kind of person are you? You really do need to look in a mirror and improve your life, you know. Anyway, all's well that ends well. I shall round off here. Thanks for listening. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, hit that subscribe button below. Ring the bell for notification of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, feed your kids exactly how you like, and goodbye.